What is the point of bookkeeping? If you're a small business owner, you've probably asked yourself this question. Obviously, you know you need it for your taxes, and if you have accounts receivable and accounts payable, you obviously have to track that so you know if you're owed money, you need to make sure your suppliers and your vendors get paid. But as a CFO, I think the point of bookkeeping is we really want to create meaningful reports. And that's achieved by getting the chart of accounts correctly set up and having all those transactions each month get correctly categorized. The big goal should really be to have a profit and loss statement and a balance sheet that reflects what happened in your business during a given month. Now, depending on the size and nature of the business, this can be more challenging. But at the end of the day, this is really about giving the decision makers an accurate report of what happened the previous month. Let's talk about the profit and loss report. We know that we have our revenue and expenses along with net income at the very bottom. But if you're a small business, even if you are using QuickBooks Online, maybe you have accounts receivable, maybe you even track accounts payable, you're probably not fully committed to accrual accounting, which means your monthly profit and loss statement is probably not correct. So for example, it's January, you pay your rent, and you book it in January for 12 months. Now, on a cash basis, this is perfectly fine. You pay your taxes on a cash basis, that's perfectly fine. But when you run that profit and loss report, rent is going to be for 12 months, and then the rest of the year, it'll be zero. Now, that's obviously not correct, but that's just an example of cash basis versus an accrual basis where we're actually getting the numbers to reflect what's actually happening in the business. And the whole point of this is not just for busy work or to give the bookkeeper something to do. It's about arriving at a gross profit margin and a net profit margin each month so that we know the books are accurate, and then we have accurate reports that we can identify trends, we can know our gross profit margin, and we can start making better decisions. So I mentioned earlier setting up the chart of accounts. So we want to have our account name set up correctly, but we also want to have the structure of those accounts set up. And really what I'm talking about here on the profit and loss is direct costs. We want to be under cost of sales or cost of goods sold. And then everything else would be below the gross profit margin on our profit and loss. So if we think about QuickBooks, we'd want our overhead falling below the gross profit, and that would be our total expenses. And you'll see here on the screen, I've got an example. If we can get our profit and loss report set up correctly, if we can make sure that our bookkeeping and accounting entries are adjusted to an accrual basis, that will show us what actually happened in a given month. And if we can do that month over month, then we can have some accurate gross profit margin KPIs, net profit margin KPI, and we can actually see a trend. But if you don't do that, it makes it very difficult for you or your bookkeeper to really be comparing month after month, year over year, if the data is not correct. And this is a big problem I see. So if you're a small business owner, I think your big takeaway from this video is you need to be concerned about your gross profit margin and your net profit margin. And the only way to do that is for you or your bookkeeper or your accountant to know how to get the books to reflect what actually happened each month. Then you can see these trends, you can make better decisions, you can actually figure out what's working in the business and what's not.